We do this all the time. Yeah, you gotta wait. All I know is that there's a lot of people watching this show. I don't know how the chances, but sex does Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Volpe Basil Report. This is May 7th. We're already in the 5th month of the year. I mean, this is going so fast. We want to start off with on a high note. We're going to say hello to our number one fan, Marianne McCara.
Hello, Marianne.
And we have to say hello to Christine Scotti, who puts the show on YouTube. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Christine.
And apparently she and Brian had something kinky going on because he's got a pinched nerve in his neck, so he's not here.
You know what? Good for her.
Yeah. Well, when you're young, you can do that kinky stuff. And Dominic's not here because there is an illness in his family. Nothing serious, nobody. But our guest tonight was
Dominic's never on the show with me.
Right, that's the other.
He never does
a show with you. The other thing is that Michael Grace, who is running for legislature in District 2, is it?
4.
District 4 in Yorktown, Westchester County. He had a death in his family, so he could not make it here. And we at Volpe Basil send our condolences to him and his family. But last minute phone call. I called the Republican candidate for mayor of Yorktown, Matthew Slater. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you.
Now, Matthew and I go back a few years. He was head of the Republican committee in Yorktown. Mm-hmm. He was also the right-hand man to State Senator Terrence Murphy, but we go back a while since when I used to write for the North County News.
Correct.
But you got Darren and Matt here, and I was saying this off the air, who have run parallel paths for 2 different parties, starting at a young age, always working behind the scenes for these elected candidates. Darren finally went in front of the camera, was a Yorktown councilman.
I determined, when I was a right-hand man, turns out they were left-handed.
Right.
So,
and now Matt is trying to go in front of the camera, but it's a good. Now, Darren, explain why it was
the huge difference is he's a much better dresser.
No, but
he is. You are a good dresser.
Explain what you learned by running for office that made you a better consultant, which eventually you'll fall back on when your political career is over. In front of the camera.
I'll tell you, the biggest difference that I found was especially fundraising, and also in general asking people for support, because when you're a consultant, you sort of say to the candidate, just go over there, make that phone call them up, ask them for money, and ask them for big money, ask them for a big check, come on.
Have those conversations.
And then as a candidate, as a consultant or as a fundraiser, as a staffer, no's aren't that offensive, right? The person's like, no, he sucks, and hangs up the phone. You go on to the next name and you dial and you do the next one, right? You don't take it personally.
Right.
But when you're the candidate, you start taking that shit's real.
Right, because they're saying no to you.
Because they're saying no to you.
Told you could curse.
I know, I'm allowed to curse on cable. Yes. This is an adult show. This is an adult show. Kids shouldn't be watching. No, but you do. You take it personally and it hurts your feelings. And then for me, I realized I sent out everyone's like, oh, send out letters to your friends and family. Mm-hmm. That's the easy money. You get that first. I had cousins or people I went to college with and folks that I was like, oh, he owes me big time.
Yeah, right.
He'll definitely support my campaign. Send me a check. And they're like, no, I'm not supporting you. I'm not writing you a check, or I'm not helping you. And it would, you'd be like, what? Thanksgiving's going to be awkward.
Yeah,
but you don't support me.
Going back to consulting.
But when I went back to consulting, it made me a better consultant because I was more empathetic to the candidate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, they liked it better that I once had my name on the ballot because they're like, all right, this guy's going to know what I'm going through as a candidate.
You know both sides of the coin.
Because you know both sides of the coin.
Absolutely.
So now this is your first race you've run.
As a candidate, correct?
As a candidate.
Yes, sir.
Right off the top, what have you seen that's different? Because you've been a consultant and you've been a a party head in Yorktown. Now you're a candidate. What is the first difference you've seen?
I think Darren nailed it, though. When you talk about fundraising.
But we're talking about Yorktown with our elitist snobs. He's dealt with common people and people.
Oh, please. No, but he's 100% right. To his point, I had friends from elementary school. And, you ask them, not just for money, but hey, like my Facebook page, and they're going, no, I'm good.
Really?
Oh yeah.
It's so
I've
hard.
gotten it. I've got people
It's
who
so
I've
hard.
known since the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And listen, it's a very different aspect when it's your name on that sticker and your name on that lawn sign.
Yeah.
And
But does Terrence look at you once in a while, and laugh and say,
he's
know?
loving it.
But that does it not. Yeah.
I will look you dead in the face. He is loving the fact that the roles are reversed because just like you said, I was always doing the same thing. Oh, just call him and ask him for a max check. It's not a big deal. That's an easy ask. And he's looking at me like I got 10 heads, and I'm like, what's the problem? And now the roles reversed, and I'm sitting there with the phone in my hand. I'm going, God, I really got to ask this guy for money.
This is awkward.
This is really uncomfortable, right?
This is awkward.
Yeah. So it's a very different role reverse, but listen, I had a great tutor in Terrence Murphy. He was a Yorktown councilman for a number of years.
Sometimes I thought you were the teacher.
No.
You've been doing this since you were a young man.
Yeah.
You are a young man. You're 30. I mean, compared to me, Darren's a young man.
When did you start doing this?
As soon as I walked out of college.
Like you said, Darren, when you started.
Right out of college.
Right out of college, I had a buddy of mine. I was in school in New Hampshire. I had a buddy of mine from New York. He said, "Hey, I think I can get you set up in the assembly." And I said, "Yeah, let's." I need a job, so sign me up. And I literally just fell into it backwards. I drove out to Albany for my one interview, and they said, "Okay, can you start in 2 weeks?" And I said,
So you worked on the legislative side up in Albany.
"Yeah,
Now, question off the top. First of all, you're married.
yes."
How many years?
We'll be married 5 years this December 5th.
And you have a son.
I have a 3-year-old Charlie.
And you have one on the way now.
And we've got another one. We got a little girl coming in September.
So don't you guys ever just do it for fun?
We thought we were. None of this was planned.
Wait.
I gotta say, now listen, everybody, you really should like his Facebook page because you're never gonna see his face. You're gonna see Charlie and his wife, and
I play my strengths. I know my strengths are.
He turns into the scale.
Wait.
I mean, really.
The baby's due in September.
Yeah.
And the election is in November.
Thank God there's no primary.
You planned this.
No.
You
Thank
have
God
to have
there's no
planned, 'cause
primary.
I mean, the
that's
best part of your Facebook is when your wife is on it.
Actually, yeah, I get that's the photos with the most
I
likes.
mean, if you notice,
100%.
just
That is going to be great
Just as
social
it is-
media when you're holding that little baby up.
now,
and
Darren,
everything.
you
Good
just
for you.
had
That's
you
good
just
timing.
had your anniversary. How many years?
I did I think 200.
No, seriously, you just had your anniversary. How many
Carried
years?
3.
No. How many years now?
My wife keeps saying that when I turned 50, she was going to trade me for two 25-year-olds.
But how many years now?
I don't know. I think like 16, 17.
Now, like Tommy and I on September will.
But we were together for like 8 or 9 years
Right, but I'm
before
saying
that.
Tommy and
so
I
we're
in
like
September-
we're over 20 years together.
Tommy and I have been in September. Will have been married 6 years, but this May 27th, which has always been our anniversary,
Yeah.
it'll be 32 years.
32.
You guys weren't even born. Well, Darren was, but he wasn't.
Wow.
He was still using that thing to pee out of when Tommy and
Someone's
I met.
been with you for 32 years.
And if you notice on the Facebook, he took my picture off. It's just his now. So now everybody likes his Facebook page. But
Well, that's
32,
great.
but-
Congratulations.
But anyway, what made you decide to go from behind the scenes
Yeah.
to and not just run for council like Terrence did the councilman
Yeah,
thing first. Paganelli did the councilman thing before he went for highway superintendent.
Yep.
What made you decide to make the big league go for the? Even Andre Rainey here in Pizza was a councilman before
Councilman
he went
first,
to be
then
mayor.
mayor.
What made you decide to do the supervisor? What was the push?
I just think, from my standpoint, I think it was about bringing a new perspective to town government. And I think I bring something
New because of your youth,
new
or
be-
because of your experience with the
and I was
state
about to
government?
say, though, I think it's a combination of youth coupled with experience in state government. Because again, I worked for the state assembly, I worked for the state senate. I actually worked for the county as well for a little while. So I understand those levels of government and how they're connected and how they work together. And so I think I bring that different experience plus new vision, new ideas, and a new direction and leadership for the town.
Because I just, you're a native to Yorktown. You're born and raised.
Yes, sir.
Like I say that, but I go back to 1955. I mean, when I was in Yorktown, it was still all trees and woods, and all the side roads were gravel because there were no winter homes.
Yep.
I mean, you came in more modern time. But off the Karen, I got to do this because I couldn't resist it, and I was fascinated when I found out. You and Darren have another thing in common.
Uh-oh.
You have a favorite congresswoman. And that is Ms. Cortez. Now, the thing is that Darren has to deal with it on a state party level.
Yeah.
But you said you went to school with her.
I did. I was a senior. She was a freshman. We were on the same track team at that point in time.
But as a graduate of Yorktown High School.
How's that possible? I thought she was from the Bronx.
Sandy from the Bronx. I know. I was confused too for a while.
But as a graduate of the Yorktown High School, and that's where you graduated
Yes.
from.
Yep, 2004.
Aren't you embarrassed that or aren't you grateful that she never talks about her Yorktown roots? And this way they can say, okay, she's that dumb because she's from the Bronx? And that you don't blame the Yorktown school system for this?
I absolutely don't blame the Yorktown School District for her selective memory, but I actually think that it does our community a disservice because she is, and at the end of the day, no matter what the party is, she's the youngest woman ever elected to Congress. You know, she's a product of our community, whether she wants to be or not. And I just think that we as a community should have the ability and the opportunity to celebrate the accomplishment that she's actually made.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for political reasons, we're being denied that opportunity.
Quick inside baseball that you talk about behind the scenes. What were the numbers on her election?
Oh, gosh.
Quick inside baseball.
She stomps around like she had some sort of a mandate, and for me, with the Democrats,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
It's very much like the inmates are trying to take over the asylum. I mean, they're nuts, and she ran that race. 750,000 people live in the district, and she got 15,000 votes. 750,000. Now that says more about the state of the electorate and the lack of voting and all sorts of other things.
Yeah, but you mentioned something about the race you ran with Carolyn Maloney and her opponent.
Joe Crowley got about 13,000.
Right.
So, the person who ran against Carolyn Maloney in Manhattan, that guy, the losing candidate. Matter of fact, the losing candidates in most congressional districts across the state of New York get more votes than her and Joe Crowley combined.
Yeah.
Combined. That's how low.
Well, think about it this way,
nothing.
though. For the state Senate race that happened in November,
Right.
I think Senator Harcum, got over 60,000 votes by himself.
She got 15,000 votes to win that primary.
Right. You're right. Yeah. There you go.
So think about that for a second. And this is for a congressional seat, to represent us in Washington. I mean, that I think. But to Darren's point, it really highlights, the lack of voter participation.
Now, with your family life, when you were working with Terrence, I would have said it was a little bit more stable, even though the hours were crazy. But now you're running for office. What does your wife feel about this?
Honestly, she likes this better.
Really?
She likes it better
Okay.
because you have to remember, everywhere that that the senator went, I went. So when he was in Albany for 6 months,
Oh, you have to be up
I
there.
was in Albany for 6 months. I got to the point where genuinely I'd be FaceTiming with my son to wish, say good morning, and he would want to see the door because he thought I was stuck in a phone. So to go from that to I'm home every night, I'm there every morning where he wakes up. That's what I'm about. As a dad, it's an amazing feeling to be able to see that.
Now because you were there in office when these, working with Terrence, but you've been in Yorktown, you watch as a Republican, and you see a lot of things opening up now in Yorktown that started under the previous administration. In Peekskill, a lot of things are opening up under this administration that were started in the previous administration. And it's got to sometimes burn.
To an extent.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same Democratic majority.
Correct.
So I was there, and I voted for these things. And so now they're coming to
Yeah,
fruition
but nobody
now.
invites you to the openings.
But I think we had an anomaly where we had a mayor in Peekskill who served in the minority, though.
True.
So he didn't have any, he couldn't control any votes, he couldn't kind of mandate anything. So
I should have said previous administrations because the firehouse was a lot of administration.
well, yeah, that was
That
like,
goes-
that,
that goes
that,
back
was,
a
that
while.
goes back like
No,
15
I'm saying
years.
the buildings on Main Street, the ones right across from Bowman and the ones right on Main Street proper, they all started in previous administrations. But you got a guy there that gets to cut the ribbon.
Oh yeah, it's always the person who
That's
cuts
how
the
it goes.
ribbon.
And,
That's how it
and I'm
goes.
just saying, you were there. You were doing the heavy lifting in Albany to help get these things through
Yeah.
that are now opening up in Yorktown. But somebody else is getting. Do they invite you at least to the ribbon cutting?
No.
That's what I mean.
No.
I mean,
I mean, you know.
I mean, it was
What,
like
what's
yeah,
the old saying? You know, it's the victors write history. I mean, you know. That's,
yeah, but the fact is, they weren't born on third base and thinking they hit a triple. They didn't hit the triple. They were born on third base.
Well, you know, I'm a Cuomo ally. You know, I'm a Cuomo guy. But he the other day he announced the Kosciuszko Bridge was going to be
Kosciuszko.
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 could run for office with that name.
But this bridge is going to finish miraculously 2 years earlier than they thought. And he said it's going to happen this year, and there'll be a big opening and ribbon cutting and the whole thing. And I just kept thinking, I'm like, geez, if this, you know, Cuomo's famous for that. He's like, no, listen, I gotta have this ribbon cutting and the name on it, and it's gonna make big
with
press.
the bridge down here.
We saw it with
We saw it with-
the tap.
Right.
Yeah, but it's easy to
sorry,
do
the
that.
Mario
The
Cuomo.
The
Yeah, but
Cuomo.
it's easy to do that when you don't have to buy rivets, when you just use crazy glue and duct tape to hold it all together.
Well, that's just
Gets
it. I
done
mean,
quicker.
he pushes those projects. He's like, no, I get the ribbon cutting. You know.
You make sure, yeah.
Yeah.
He does.
Well, what did Greg Ball's famous saying? I don't know if that, you know, it's a terrible thing to mention his name in public.
You know, he just got married.
To what?
He just got married
a what?
to a woman named Claire down in Texas. Yeah.
Wow.
Greg Ball.
Yeah, 2 weeks
Wow.
ago probably. So congratulations to
Yeah.
Greg.
Good for
Okay,
him.
but anyway, but he always, his favorite thing that he always said, and Paganelli quotes it all the time, if there isn't a picture, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And he's right about that.
He's 100%
But
right.
I'm just saying.
We say it about Facebook now.
I mean,
if it's not on Facebook, it didn't
Didn't happen. Exactly.
but you're going to run for office, and you were part of these things that were opening up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell us some of these things that you were involved with so people know that you're not just some 33-year-old kid that doesn't know.
Right. Well,
The lows.
Listen, there's
Let's start with
there's
lows.
so much
because
we
that
did.
went that took
So the
a
lows,
lot
the
of
lows
work.
took a decade.
Right,
to
that
get
took
done,
a lot of
you know,
heavy
so
lifting,
that-
and that took state and county,
Yep.
and
Yeah, that.
and I assume you were involved in that.
Absolutely, yeah. We were involved with several aspects of that project. You know, Saturday we're commemorating the Pines Bridge
Right,
battle.
the Pines Bridge.
There's a Pines Bridge memorial statue there.
We
that
did
got
the
them-
first TV show, Bruce and I, when it was Bruce the Blagos Bazo, and we had the cop that was starting that thing. We did the first fundraiser drive on our show.
Right, right, yeah.
With that.
Yeah, Michael Kahn is the cop.
Right,
And
that's
yeah,
right.
Yeah, he's a good friend.
I still have the DVD of that show.
yeah.
Tell
And
him
so
I
they're.
said,
I will.
Please tell him I said. I mean
absolutely
that
will.
seriously.
Yeah, I will.
because,
But yeah, so they've expanded that for the plaza. You know, they've got the commemorative bricks that they're going to be.
I should have a brick with my name on it there.
Well, then you should be
actually.
there on Saturday, 2:00.
And what am I supposed to do about my customers?
Well, that's true. That's
They'll
true.
throw bricks at me.
But yeah, so you know, we got a $50,000 grant that we put towards that project, which is a great which is a great addition to the community. Yorktown, that's the thing. I mean, you know this. There's so much history in this region.
Yep.
It's dating all the way back to the Revolution, and so for us to take a moment to commemorate and recognize the roots of our communities because they date back that far.
Well, I have a history teacher as a customer of mine, and he says the sad thing, and he teaches in the city, is that they emphasize math, they emphasize
Right.
English, but they don't emphasize history. And you need to know your roots.
Yeah, you do.
You need to know this country is not a bastard child. It wasn't born of perfection. It did what it had to do to become a country. So yeah, we had some sins that we were born with. We had original sins. But in the Constitution was built the mechanism to eradicate that original sin in time. But like Benjamin Franklin said at the time of the Declaration of Independence, the South was not going to sign. You needed a unanimous vote of the 13 colonies to have the Declaration of Independence. And the South was not going to sign that paper as long as Jefferson's stuff about slavery it had to be eradicated. And Adams was furious. And Franklin looked at Adams. We're not demagogues. First, the country. then we do slavery. Because if you do the slave, there's not going to be a country.
Right.
You've got to get the first thing first. The future, and Adam says, the future will never forgive us. Says, who cares? We'll be dead. But the fact is, you've got to know your history and that why things happen the way they happen. And this memorial,
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, it is a great thing, but you have this whole 202 corridor, which is being built up. That was nothing for.
Oh, you mean from the development standpoint?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Lowe's thing is going to be a catalyst to really that entire corridor. I think that you're going to see more growth. Hopefully, it's smart growth. Hopefully, it's appropriate with what happens down there.
I don't know.
I'm just worried about 202. I mean, God, you
Oh,
can't.
please! You got traffic on Route 6.
Sometimes there's so much traffic. It's like you spend hours.
Well, they have to,
on
well,
that
the
thing.
other thing that I would, we've talked about it for years, and I think that we really need to take another hard look at it is the Bear Mountain extension. They actually completed the Bear Mountain extension. You're going to be able to divert a lot of that traffic off of 202 to here, to Peekskill.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about it for years. The next piece of property that's primed for development abuts that, the Bear Mountain extension. So here's your opportunity.
Yeah.
Here's your opportunity to get it done. It's been talked about. You know how long it's been?
Oh, since Nick Bianco, 17 years now.
I was about to say Vinny Libel. Vinny Libel
Right,
was.
but it's been 17, because even Bianco told me the way the laws are written and the way the obstruction is, it takes 17 years just to get a road, a shoulder built on a road.
Just look at Lowe's. 10 years, and their soft costs were nearly $20 million.
Wow.
I mean, that's
Wow.
the anti-business climate, that we're dealing with.
But let me
and
ask
it's
you
not. And again,
No,
No,
I
it's
have to ask you because I don't know if it's me. I saw these things there, but I also know that they started previously.
they did.
I haven't seen anything in the works of new ideas. Did they go back to the old ways of let's just talk it to death until they go away?
Yeah, I mean,
Is that
let's
what's-
look at the mall. Okay, the Jefferson Valley Mall, which I was actually with then Councilman Murphy
Right.
and then Town Clerk Alice Roker, who's now a council member in Yorktown, and we sat with the mall, and they brought in their team from Indiana, and we said, hey, this mall is literally an indoor flea market. You got to do something. If you're not going to do something, then
Right.
just walk away and let's find someone who can.
Yeah.
And this was really this predates Amazon and the online retail boom. It was right at the beginning of that, right? So look
Still
what
a
happens to
great
the mall.
location.
So look what happens to the mall, right? So they finally started investing in the mall. They invested nearly $60 million into the mall. They're bringing Dick's Sporting Goods. They bring in, more restaurants. Stone Rose is there now. By the way, the Stone Rose with their outdoor, with their
That Nick fought for years.
so this is a big piece of contention in our town. It was a restaurant that wanted to come in for years into the mall, but they wanted their own entrance and exit.
So they didn't
because
have to
when the
close
mall
at 10
closed
o'clock.
At
That's
9
why they didn't-
o'clock,
right.
Yeah.
the restaurant could stay open.
Why not?
The town fought them for years.
What was the argument against it? That's crazy.
It was going to call. It was going to. Basically, it was the nightlife that they were afraid of.
Nick Bianco could have been a perfect Putnam Valley councilman. He believed in the land that time forgot. Nick and I were friends, but when it came to business, when it came to development, he liked houses, except houses added to the property taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
Businesses not adding children and paying more in property taxes relieved the burden from the homeowners.
You nailed it, and I think that's something that we need to take a really hard look at in town because the Chamber of Commerce in Yorktown for years now have been pointing to their study that says that Yorktown has the lowest commercial tax base in the entire county.
Wow.
Lowest.
And
Seriously, it's 80% residential.
Wow.
And think of how much Yorktown sales tax goes to Cortland.
Right.
Because they do their shopping in Cortland stores.
Well, the Cortland Town Center was supposed to be in Yorktown.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Cortland Town Center was supposed to be in Yorktown, and I don't think we have enough time to get into the backstory about what happened there. But
No, but you
needless to
can
say-
tell what's going on future with the mall.
So future with the mall. I'm sorry to get back to the mall. So under the previous administration in Yorktown, the mall wanted to continue their investment, continue their expansion. They basically had everything all laid out. They had all their approvals set, and then when the new administration came in, they actually put them back through the approval process. So a year later now, after they had basically everything approved, they were still back at square one in the approval process, waiting to get approvals that they already thought they had.
So they're going back to the Cooper Peters days of Susan Siegel days of let's just talk about it. And we'll pretend, but in the meantime, all that talk is costing the developer money that they could use to put into the property.
Put it this way: the mall in December said we're done.
Yeah.
They said thanks, but no thanks. We're out. Meanwhile, when I was working with Senator Murphy, we had worked with DOT and the town.
You didn't let you call him Terrence?
I have too much respect for him to call him that.
No, we have respect for him. We have respect, but even then,
I'm not saying you don't, but
but I'm saying, but I'm just saying, people because of his roots in the community, everybody calls him.
Everyone
Terrence.
calls him Terrence.
So, I mean,
Listen, he's a member of my family. I'm an adopted member of his family. Trust me.
He
We spent holidays together.
He told me to call him T.
Well, it's
Mr.
T-Bone.
T.
It's
T-Bone.
T-Bone.
Mr.
Yeah,
T.
it's a real. If you really want the
But
inside
wait, so
scoop there.
the person walked away from the project now?
They walked away.
So who's running the mall now?
Well, they're still there, but they basically have indicated that until things change and there's a new team of leadership, that they're content with where things are.
Yeah.
And so it was another 10,000 square feet.
That happened in Peekskill with Mary Foster. Then it came to Catalina. There was people that had things going on at Testa that just waited out the Foster regime until Frank came in with the council that was willing to work with them.
Yeah, I was about to say with the council.
I wasn't there because you needed the votes.
But also,
you guys were more
in
your
Mary's,
council that you
in
were
Mary's
on.
defense, it was also a real downturn in the economy. So developers specifically had started projects or went into projects, but then there was a massive, that was during the big crash.
Right.
And they had no
Understandably so.
financing.
Yeah.
And so when they're financing, it wasn't like it wasn't just one developer. It was all the developers said, "Well, wait a minute, we have to pull back."
Right.
Yeah, but
they
you
had lost their
face
bank
your
financing.
council that you were on was
But
a
wait a
lot
minute
more
now,
pro-business.
6 years later, the financing freed up, and now everything's kind of moving.
But you
again,
know
and
this because
people
you were in
are-
local government, though. Other people who are looking at your municipality are going to look at the
Correct.
smoke signals, right? So when they're seeing
Yeah.
someone like Simon,
Where's
a major developer, walk away from a project, they know what they're dealing with, and they're just they're going to hold their power.
New York City will look back 25, 50 years from now and say that moment with Amazon was the biggest mistake they might have
Huge.
ever made.
Massive.
They still kick their ass on the
because
Kingsbridge Armory.
That
Remember
sent,
that
sent the signal to business investment
I
all
want to get this
across the
quickly
country.
because I got to give the last few minutes. But the Kingsbridge Armory, when that councilman said no jobs is better than the jobs they won off at the Kingsbridge Armory.
Awful.
Guy had a job telling people that you're better off with no job than a job.
Right.
So okay.
But anyway, no.
So
we got a couple
first
minutes. We got
year in
a-
office, first 100 days, you can wave a magic wand and pass any law. What would it be?
I think it's actually not passing laws. I think it's changing the workflow in our town hall. I actually think that's the better way to do it because the laws aren't going to fix what we have going on right now. What we need new technology. We need a new thought process and a new workflow that's going to help our employees actually get the jobs done that the constituents need to see done. And then I think we translate over from there real quick.
We got less than 2 minutes.
To analytics to help us make our decisions.
Okay, we got
Nice.
less than 2 minutes.
Nice.
Why should people say we want Matt as our supervisor?
Because people-
And don't show them Charlie's picture. That's not fair.
Well, if you want someone who's truly invested in the future of this community, no one's got a better argument than I do with my family right now. But if you want someone with new vision, new leadership, new ideas outside of the box, then here we go. Let's do this. And also, by the way, a proactive and aggressive leadership that's not going to wait for things to come to them. I don't believe in doing that. Let's go at least meet halfway, if not go all the way.
Okay, because I just want to know what you're going to bring to the table that people should say, I want this guy to be the suit. He's only 33, but the thing is, you are an aberration in that you're 33 and you live in Yorktown, the town you grew up in.
Right.
Most people have to move out. What are you going, I believe the more that they build up the business base.
Yeah.
So you have property taxes from businesses and sales tax. Just tell the people with
But
the
it's
sales
not. But
tax.
it's not just commercial, though. It's not just commercial. I think we have a real opportunity. Listen, people forget that IBM is actually in Yorktown. It is. So I think we have a real opportunity to build off of that, to bring in some high tech, some biotech, generate some real jobs. It's not just pizza places and nail salons, as much as everyone likes them. But let's generate some good paying jobs and some real tax base that doesn't hurt the taxpayer.
Right, but I'm saying, tell people with the sales tax. You're in Westchester as opposed to Putnam. You actually get a piece of the action.
But they also just raised our sales tax in Westchester, thanks to the state legislature.
Right, but Yorktown does get a piece of the
We do.
that's generated from that town. No, Putnam doesn't do that.
No. But in that case, what you're talking about though is they're going to raise our taxes and then give it back to us. So in a sense, we're still paying a doubling down. On
That's
tax.
what kills me about Peter Hartman. Yeah. I didn't vote for the sales tax. He knew they didn't need his vote. If they needed his vote, he would have voted for it. But he did vote for the commuter tax. And what the hell lives in Yorktown? Commuters.
Absolutely, commuters that have to.